Hi, I'm John Quigley, President and CEO of the Elmhurst Chamber of Commerce and Industry. In these challenging economic times, it's imperative that our residents and businesses band together to not only shop Elmhurst, but buy Elmhurst whenever possible. We have great stores in our city center, Spring Road, Butterfield Road, York and Villette Streets, St. Charles and Route 83, North Avenue and Lake Street, along North York and even Grand Avenue. I ask for your help. Let's keep our tax dollars in Elmhurst. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm John Quigley, President and CEO of the Elmhurst Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I'd like to welcome you to our 94th Annual Awards Gala, plus our Civic Hall of Fame induction. At this time, I would like to call up Gina Pavoni from BMO Harris Bank, our primary sponsor for this evening's activities. Gina is going to come up here and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So now that I have you formally seated, I'm going to ask you all to stand up again.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Give Gina a nice round of applause for leading us in that. And from Weiss Insurance Agency, a member of the Board of Directors, I'd like to call upon Jackie Hayden to do our invocation for this evening before we enjoy our meal. Give Jackie a nice round of applause.
Thank you and Happy New Year. Let us bow our heads. For the food that nourishes our body, for the fellowship here that feeds our souls, for all things good and beautiful with which our lives are filled, we give thanks today. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Enjoy your dinner, and we'll be back to start our program in just a little bit. Again, welcome back to the Elmhurst Chamber of Commerce 94th Annual Awards Gala and Civic Hall of Fame induction. Once again, I'm John Quigley, President and CEO of the Elmhurst Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Hard to believe I've actually been here since 1999. Thank you. While you are finishing up the entree of your dinner, dessert is still to come, but we're going to go ahead and start with our program while they're cleaning off the dishes and serving you dessert for this evening. If you look at your program, we're ready to start our award presentations, but we just happen to have a special guest in the audience, as we have most of the years we've been doing this awards dinner. We do have the mayor of the city of Elmhurst. In this case, it is an interim mayor, but he's very familiar with the Chamber of Commerce. He is a past director, past board chair. He's an alderman, but he's serving as the interim mayor until the April 9th consolidated elections, and he'll serve into early May. I'd like to ask him up to give a few comments. Would you welcome from Howard and Howard, Scott Levin. Scott?
Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? We already did that. Well, it's always nice to speak before the Chamber, as I've said recently in some comments at another function sponsored by the Chamber, that I have a lot of good friends here at the Chamber, and this is a very special night for a lot of our award winners, and I want to congratulate all of them. This is probably our biggest dinner, and I'm not going to go on at length because I know Jennifer Speaker and other important people will be speaking. And Harris Bank, I want you to know you're one of our best clients. I just want you to know that. That's why I'm up here. All right, thank you very much.
Oh, it brings back memories of Mayor Marcucci. It is now my pleasure to introduce to you our outgoing chairman of the board from SMB Advantage Group, Jennifer Speaker. And Jennifer has made this a memorable year in a variety of ways, including the fact that at our August Board of Directors meeting, she decided that that was the time that she should bring her new young son into this world. And he's been at almost all of the board meetings, committee meetings, and executive committee meetings since then. He's been great, and he's here tonight and doing well again. Jennifer, come on up here. Give Jennifer a nice round of applause.
Stealing my thunder.
I know. I didn't say his name or anything.
Oh,
so you can, you're off
thanks. Thanks. Well, unfortunately, my speech has been torn to shreds by the little guy, but for those who know me, I am the queen of being brief. So just want to give you a little overview of what we did with the chamber for the last year. We closed out the year with 603 members. We hired a chamber advocate. That's great. Hired a new chamber advocate, Kevin O'Keefe, who came in with 94 of those memberships, where 76 were new and 18 were reactivations. So where's Kevin at tonight? Thank you. Even though we modified some of our plans for certain events, we were ahead of the game financially, enough to give out year-end bonuses. So for 2013, we have events planned like the duck race, and then we're going to bring back the steak fry. Also, for the first time in 4 years, we upgraded 2 of our computers and have plans for new machines in 2013. And then John told everybody about me having my son Tommy in August after I drove myself to the hospital right after the board meeting. I know. To finish out 2012, we recently moved our website from our previous host onto a new host and using a new technology, which is going to allow the chamber to do more updates in-house. And towards the end of the month, we're also going to give John the ability to do the updates from his smartphone. So while you're out and about, be very careful what photos he's taking of you. So I'd like to thank my 2/3 female executive board, with Paul Cook, Julie Miller, and Dee Longfellow for all of their hard work running all the committees this year. Thank you. And then we have one outgoing director, Paul DeMichael. Is he here tonight?
Actually, there's 2.
Oh, there are 2.
Yeah,
Pardon me.
because technically now he's our member advocate.
Oh, Kevin. So we have 2, Paul DeMichael and Kevin O'Keefe. Thank you for your service on the board.
Kevin, come on up and get your outgoing director's plaque. Here, you get to present that to him.
And we need the
You can just step over there.
me.
This was kind of a win-win. We got rid of a bad director and got a good member advocate.
And for more of that banter, just stay in the Elmhurst Chamber office during the day. So that's all I have today.
Well, you need to stay up here because we're
I'm
going
not going anywhere.
Yeah, you need to stay up here. Give Jennifer a nice round of applause. She did a terrific job. We have several awards we need to present at this time. This is the fun part. This is what I really like. Let's get a chance to recognize people who really deserve to be recognized. The first thing we're going to give out that Jennifer's got there is our Ambassador of the Year award. That is going to Tim Gurry of Pampered Chef TLG. Tim, come on up. Our Ambassador of the Year award is presented annually to a member of the Green Coated Chamber Ambassadors for his or her outstanding service. Tim's been a Pampered Chef consultant since 2010, and he was recently elected to serve a 3-year term on the board of directors. He's a second-year ambassador, but he's no stranger to the Elmhurst Chamber. During 40-some years of banking, sales, and marketing work, he worked for several banks here in Elmhurst. He was actively involved in the Elmhurst Chamber. We described Tim as one of those guys who gets it, and Tim was always coming into the chamber office, what can I do, how can I help? And when he got transferred, it was one of those days you just go, oh man, we're losing Tim. Oh. But then he came back to us as a pampered chef, and he has pampered our chamber for a number of years. Tim, congratulations, come on up and say a few words.
Thank you, John, and everybody for honoring me with this. Actually, I only wanted to be a ambassador to wear a green coat and march in the St. Patrick's Day Parade. That's all I wanted to do. But along the way, I was able to meet a lot of great businesses and go to a lot of ribbon cuttings and meet a lot of great folks in and around Elmhurst. So, and they accepted me. They accepted me as a banker, and now they accepted me as their chef once in a while. So, again, I thank you, John, for this. It's really nice. Really is nice. And I will continue to try and do whatever I can for the chamber to make sure everybody knows about Elmhurst and the chamber and all the kind of good stuff that you guys do. But as you know, I'm not perfect, but I am pampered.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And let me tell you, you're one of the few people who can wear that green coat and not have it look hideous. I always tell our ambassadors, as ugly as those green jackets are, when I was out in Portage, Indiana, they had maroon-colored jackets. So be happy, the green is way better than the maroon-colored. Our next honoree is our Chairman's Award winner. And do you have some items you'd like to say about? Oh, then I'm going to let you do it. Come on up here. Sure.
So you don't steal my thunder on that one.
Yeah.
All right, during the course of 2012, the Chamber has had the normal technology issues that any small business can have. Internet interruptions, monitors that simply stop working, and hard drives that fail. As a fellow IT person, we know the criticality of having computers and systems up and running and available in order to get the day-to-day tasks completed. Tony has worked with the Chamber over the past several years and has demonstrated excellence in his field. We appreciate the work he has done with the Chamber's computers, maintenance, setup of new machines, installation of a new wireless router, and remote desktop abilities for the staff so they can access their machines from home when we have our famous Chicago snowstorms or our not-so-famous Elmhurst floods. Can I announce who it goes to?
Yeah.
This year's Chairman's Award goes to Tony Scandora of AE Systems Corp.
I got to tell you, Tony was in the office today. He just fixed Kevin's laptop, and he was doing some work on my laptop to make all that possible. During one of the snowstorms where our building was down for 3 days without power, nobody had any idea that the office wasn't being manned on a regular basis because I was able to do all my emails, all my texting, all my phone calls, update the website, and do other things from my smartphone. And that was all a contribution that Tony has done, and by the way, Jennifer contributed to as well. So give them both a nice round of applause. And Tony?
John mentioned beautiful green jackets. A long time ago, when I first was playing with the College DuPage back in the day, they had green leisure suits. And John just mentioned, yeah, he can work at home. When I first gave that to him, he said he hates me and he loves me, that he doesn't have to go to the office, he doesn't feel like it, but now he has no excuse not to. And I'm duly shocked and honored when I heard this, and I still feel shocked and honored. There's a lot of people who make the chamber work. And there's 3 full-time staff and an incredible succession of interns. And with 4 people in the office, we have a countless number of ambassadors and other people who just volunteer tremendous amounts of time. This is a very lively chamber. It works extremely well, and it's on the part of volunteers, and just doing what I thought was the right thing to do, give back a little of what we have. So I thank the chairman and the president and everybody else who thought to honor me. And I also thank all of the incredible volunteers who just put in an incredible amount of time and effort and talent and make the chamber what it is. Thank you.
Well said, Tony. By the way, I'm Facebooking your comments as we stand here, so. Yeah. Now for us, this is typically our biggest award of the year. It's the A.J. Tachi-Toronis Business of the Year. Many of you know A.J. Tachi-Toronis or knew of him or knew him, but he was the individual who, starting from 1989 until his passing in July of 1999, he was the one that took the chamber from being this small kind of business organization of mostly, I'd say, downtown businesses, to being an all Elmhurst member advocate, business advocate, community invested organization that it is today. We've grown considerably since those years, but he's the guy who started that all in motion back in 1989, and he lived chamber for a decade. And so following his passing, we started to award the A.J. Tachi-Toronis Business of the Year Award, and we've had some amazing recipients over the years. The first one, Community Bank of Elmhurst, then Unique Travel Service, Cardinal Cartridge, Great American Exteriors, Silverado Grill, Synergistic Networks, York Theater, Roche Chrysler Jeep Dodge, Suburban Bank and Trust, right here, the Diplomat West back in 2008, Harris Bank in 2009, OEC Business Interiors in 2010, and our recipient in 2011, Elmhurst Memorial Healthcare. And at this time, I'd like to call up Peter Daniels from Elmhurst Memorial Healthcare. Peter, if there's anybody else who you want up helping you hand off the trophy, that's fine. And I will call the principals from our 2012 recipient, York Furrier, 80 years strong in our community. Come on up. You're going to accept the award. Slide on down here so they can get a good photo of you. John Resney, Kathy Resney, John Wagner, all up here. It's been a little more than 80 years since Joseph Wagner, an 18-year-old immigrant from Germany, arrived in New York. He had a proficiency of the English language and mere pocket change, but he worked his way across the country to a small Midwest community with strong German heritage and a family atmosphere. Want to guess what community that was? Yep. Very good. On York Road in 1931, Wagner opened the doors to his very own fur and tailor business, York Furrier. And in the 8+ decades since then, all sorts of family members, 3 generations, have made this business an anchor of the downtown in Elmhurst. And in an era when fur companies have found it more difficult to operate, York Furrier has taken on other areas, other fur companies, and they've expanded and grown. But primarily, they're a downtown Elmhurst business, and they're an anchor of the Elmhurst business community. And by the way, I happen to like their coats too. Yeah, I look good. not the fur. I've got a really nice lamb coat that looks good on me, so I appreciate that. But when you talk about the history of Elmhurst and the history of businesses in Elmhurst, there are very few that go back as many decades with as many generations as York Furrier does. And I ask you now to give York Furrier a great round of applause. Kathy, John, who's gonna do the deal?
So I just want to know, John, are we supposed to take this over to Fitz's Pub tonight and drink beer out of it? I don't know what the protocol is, a celebratory protocol.
It's not unlike the hockey championship trophy. You can drink out of it for the next year, but you do have to bring it back a year from now because somebody else is going to get it for a year.
So if we break it, we bought it.
Yes.
Okay.
You could put it in
No.
a really nice fur-lined,
Know what? This means a lot. This is awesome. You want to hang on to that? Thank you for the introduction, John. Good evening. We'd like to take this opportunity to thank John Quigley, the Elmhurst Chamber of Commerce, and the selection committee that was responsible for honoring us with this wonderful recognition. Certainly, we're aware that there are plenty of businesses under the Chamber's umbrella, as well as present this evening, that are probably equally deserving. So we really accept this award with great pride and appreciation. It means a lot. It really does. It's been a long time coming, and we certainly appreciate it. This award, though, we'll get to that in a minute. This award, though, is really about the entire York Furrier staff. And they need to be acknowledged this evening. Without their dedication and devotion, awards like this are not possible. The York staff, a number of them have been with us for 20, 30 years or more, are true professionals, and they are always ready to meet or exceed our customers' expectations. They are the crucial ingredient to our past success and our future success. So we extend our deepest appreciation, and I wish every one of them were here tonight. Unfortunately, they're not, but there are a couple that are, and are here this evening. I'd like to point them out. Mark Gordon. Mark helps manage the store in Elmhurst. Mark, could you stand for just a second, please? Mark has been with us for 37 years. He's a fellow that knows more about the inner workings of York Furrier than I think anybody in the establishment. And Mark, you're a terrific person to have aboard. You're family. You really are. Thank you for all your years of service. And then we have Wally. Wally has been with us for 10 years. Wally heads up our fur department. He's in charge of all the alterations and repairs. He's just a tremendously skilled individual, and again, he's just a dedicated individual, and he's just a terrific human being as well. So Wally, thank you. And then we have Tom Fosnot, who is, Tom's been with us for 38 years. Tom is actually our founder, Joseph Wagner's son-in-law, and he's also our treasurer. So if we have any outstanding invoices here this evening, you can blame it on him. You can meet him at the back door. Tom, thanks for everything. He's like a rock. He's a great sounding board. He's a sense of reason, and we truly appreciate everything you've done, for York Furrier. Terrific, thank you. In 1931, I need to recognize the generations that came before us quickly. In 1931, our founder, Joseph Wagner, set a vision in place that continues today, and that is customers and community first. By being supportive of local organizations such as the Chamber, which it was brought to my attention, we have been a member since 1967. That's long-standing. And as well as being involved in local organizations whenever possible, and always conducted business with our customers' best interests in mind, have guided York Furrier through the Great Recession as well as the Great Depression. So that's quite a feat, I believe. The second generation of Richard and Edith Wagner continued to follow those founding principles as they expanded the business, which now draws locally, regionally, in some cases nationally. The third and current generation, which we represent, John Wagner, Kathy Resney, and myself, John Resney, are continued guided by those founding principles. as we've added a second location in 2004 in the Deer Park Town Center. We created a comprehensive online marketing program, and we've grown and fortified the locations through a series of acquisitions. We've experienced plenty of challenges through the years, like all of you, I'm sure, along the way, but the endorsement we've received this evening from the Chamber, it's heartfelt. It means a lot, and it tells us that our future is still bright. So again, we'd like to extend our sincere gratitude to John Quigley, the Chamber of Commerce, and the Selection Committee. Thank you.
Can I say anything? No? Congratulations. Again, let's give York Furrier another nice round of applause. Now at this time, I'd like to call up our current board chair, general manager and partner, Larry Roche, Chrysler Jeep Dodge. Would you welcome Paul Cook? Paul.
Thank you, John. It's going to be an interesting year. It started with tonight. I said, John, what do I need to do to prepare for tonight? He said, nothing. Don't worry about it. I said, well, John, do I have to say something? He said, don't worry about it. Jennifer will do everything. You'll talk at the end of your year. And then I get here, and the program says, introduction and remarks by Paul Cook.
Welcome to being the chairman.
Yeah, we're off to a good start. For those of you that don't know me, I guess I'll just say a little bit about myself and my involvement here. I am a product of Elmhurst. I was born and raised in Elmhurst. I went to school in Elmhurst. I met my lovely wife, Laura, in Elmhurst at Immaculate Conception High School. My 4 children were educated in Elmhurst. I'm in business in Elmhurst at Larry Roche Chrysler Jeep Dodge with my business partner, Dan Roche. He and I have been buddies since first grade. I give my own little Mayberry, I call it. And so I like to say I'm actually kind of living my dream. And my dream is to be involved in the community, to be successful. It's the motto of the Chamber to help businesses succeed in Elmhurst. And I'm happy to help do that because I feel like I'm succeeding myself here in my own little Mayberry of Elmhurst. I guess that's really what I need to say about that. I did think, I tell my son before he goes to play in a hockey game, be a playmaker. So this year I hope to be a playmaker for the Chamber, and I hope all of you will participate in that, and together we'll have a great 2013. All right, thank you.
And now it is the duty of the current board chair to present the outgoing board chair with their ceremonial gavel so that you can be banging that at home with the baby.
Yes.
Give them a nice round of applause.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, you may.
I guarantee I will not have a baby this year.
That's what he thinks. It's in the budget. That's all I'm going to say. Yeah. I know the budget's just a working document, but we like to try and do everything that's in the budget in a fiscal year. Okay. Well, we're having fun now, aren't we? By the way, for those of you who are here for the first time and catching the dance music on the other side of the wall, there's been some evenings that we've done our annual awards dinner, and there's been a singles dance club going next door to us in the other room. So I always say the quicker we can get out of here, the quicker we can crash that party next door and dance up a storm. So we just have a couple things left to do. It's my pleasure now to introduce Ken Bartels, who has been a partner of mine in regard to the Civic Hall of Fame since almost its inception. He's been part of it since its inception. I've been part of it since 1991. And it's Ken's job to introduce our Civic Hall of Fame recipient. Would you give Ken a nice round of applause?
It's a wonderful opportunity again for me to be involved with the Civic Hall of Fame. As John said, I've been a part of it from the beginning. And it's an extraordinary list of people and easily the most exclusive club in town. The first inductees were brought into the Civic Hall of Fame as a part of Elmfest and had to occasionally worry about the weather as part of their inductions. Now having come indoors to the Diplomat West, we don't need to worry about that. But we need to recall, and our tradition is to read the names, and I am very pleased and proud to do that. Beginning in 1992, we had Joe Newton, the legendary York cross-country coach, Eleanor King Hookham, international artist, who was nearly blown off the stage in a windstorm, our first experience with weather, Dr. Ivan E. Frick, President Emeritus of Elmhurst College, Joseph Wagner with York Furrier, as they were just cited. I remember that Elmfest well. Gene Hazelhorst, Elmhurst Park District, premier volunteer for them. Robert Magnuson, former president, rather, of Elmhurst Memorial Hospital. Virginia Harmon, Unique Travel Services, and the first female board chair of the chamber. Lee Daniels, former Illinois Speaker of the House, in an absolute driving rainstorm the entire time. In fact, that was probably the first complete Elmfest washout that we endured. We don't blame Lee for that, but we certainly want to mention it nonetheless. The following year, we recognized A.J. Tachi Taronis. He had passed away, but his family was there, and it was a very moving induction, and then Joan, his wife, passed away pretty shortly thereafter. William C. Gooch, Jr., Chairman of the Board of the Community Bank of Elmhurst. Willis Johnson, Tivoli Enterprises and the York Theater, and Willis is here. Willis, would you stand? Stand up a second, Willis. Thank you for being here. Fred Messerschmidt from Elmhurst Federal Savings and Loan. Jim Van Ewick with Funt & Clint. Jackie Haddad, a volunteer extraordinaire with many organizations in town. Thomas O. Myers, Jr., chamber leader and a real estate businessman. Abner Gannett, former mayor of Elmhurst and Leonard's Store for Men. Jan Pauli of Pauli's Marathon. Robert Schiller of Schiller Real Estate. Thomas Marcucci, four-term mayor of Elmhurst. And then last year, Rich Grotsky, the former Park District executive director. And tonight, member number 21, Pete Kruger of the Elmhurst Press Kruger family and publisher of the Elmhurst Independent. We have a round of applause for Pete. Now, Pete, before I invite you up here for your induction into the Civic Hall of Fame, I really feel like I need to share with you a few things that have occurred to former inductees. And I don't want you to be judgmental about these things because you don't know that you won't be under the same pressure. But there are some things that I think you need to know about what has happened to some former inductees after they joined the Civic Hall of Fame. And I don't even know John knows these things, but one inductee began to repeatedly page themselves over their own corporate intercom and not disguise their voice at all. One inductee adopted this response to any question that was addressed to them, and that is, do you want fries with that? Do you want a raise? Do you want fries with that? One inductee conducted weekly Friday afternoon office chair dancing competition. And given I see some of you moving already. We've all chair danced. I'm sure they're doing that in the next room. One inductee put a garbage can on their desk and labeled it "in." One inductee secretly put decaf in the office coffee maker for 3 weeks and then put in espresso. One inductee gave up punctuation. One inductee called the psychic hotline and said, "Guess who?" One inductee told his children over dinner, "Due to the economy, we are going to have to let one of you go." Several inductees adopted wrestling nicknames. So perhaps instead of Pete Kruger, you can become Pete Crusher. And lastly, one inductee found himself going regularly to the zoo, running around the parking lot screaming, "Run for your lives, they're all loose." Now, Pete, you perhaps will be spared all this, but we'll have to wait and see. But for now, would you please come to the podium for your induction into the Civic Hall of Fame?
You know, I did not know all those things. They were never reported in the paper, I can tell you that.
Well, we're not going to get into that. I'm going to read the plaque, Pete. Elmhurst Chamber of Commerce and Industry Civic Hall of Fame, Pete Kruger, news professional, news leader, news maker, all independently. Presented at the Elmhurst Chamber of Commerce and Industry annual meeting, January 25, 2013. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to put that right there and give the podium to you.
I don't know how I could top that, but I'd just like to thank the Chamber Board for this great honor, and I'd also like to thank the staff and the writers at the Elmhurst Independent. I'd especially like to thank Deb Hamilton and Dee Longfellow for helping me start the newspaper more than. When we started the newspaper, our main office was Deb Hamilton's kitchen table. And today, our world headquarters is over on West Avenue in Elmhurst. But it's been more than 90 years since my family arrived in Elmhurst and started a newspaper business. And I'm very fortunate to be the 4th generation in my family to publish a newspaper in this great city. I owe a lot of thanks to the Chamber of Commerce, and my entire family owes a lot of thanks to the Chamber. I really appreciate this honor, and I'll always remember it. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
I hate to burst your bubble, he didn't write his own speech. And more frighteningly, Pete, you're going to be misquoted in next week's paper. It's okay, they'll print a correction the week after, so it'll be on page 8. Yeah. Actually, I have some history with the Kruger family. When I was at Elmhurst College, I started stringing for then sports editor Ned Coletti, who is now the general manager of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Should have followed Ned into Major League Baseball if I could have. But when Ned left the Elmhurst Press, he was nice enough to recommend me to become sports editor. And I was interviewed and got hired and spent 7 years as the sports editor of the Elmhurst Press. And during that time, The Kruger brothers and their sister were actively involved in the paper, working all different aspects, whether it was advertising, editorial, classified ads, and their father, Mel, his office was just kitty corner from mine, and he was the epitome of the old newspaper guy. Mel was a guy who ran the press so well that when the Daily Herald started up, they looked at all the communities and decided they could compete with any hometown paper in those communities except Elmhurst. And guess what? They're still not in Elmhurst. Now, the only mistake the Elmhurst Press made, the individuals who bought the Elmhurst Press made, was they limited the non-compete clause that they gave Pete. And when they sold the paper, when the family sold the paper, I said, the moment that non-compete clause runs out, I guarantee you Pete's going to be back in town with a paper. The moment it happened, he opened up the Independent, and they have celebrated 10 years of weekly newspaper work in this community. Give them a nice round of applause. And as a former newspaper guy, I can tell you that the newspaper business has changed as much as any business has changed in the last century. And what was considered commonplace is now rare. Very few communities can have the kind of community newspapers Elmhurst has. And Pete and his family were responsible for the one they sold and is still here, and now he's responsible for the competition that we have that makes both papers better. Again, give Pete a great round of applause. Finally, I'd like to take this opportunity, comes maybe once a year, a few times a year I can do this, and look out across the room and say thank you to each and every one of you for your continued involvement and investment in the Elmhurst Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I can tell you that when I meet with my peers in the West Suburban Chamber area on a monthly basis, or I visit with the Chicagoland Chamber of Commerce, or I head down to Springfield with the Illinois Chamber of Commerce, or we have visitors from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. They look at our chamber as an example of what small hometown chambers can be and should be. We are 600 members strong. We are the third largest chamber in DuPage County. And when chambers around this state want to see how things should be done, more often than not, I get an email or my phone rings. And they always say to me, John, how do they do it? And I said, it's not me and it's not the staff. It's the people who are our members, who volunteer on the committees, who serve on the board of directors, who put on the green coats. That's what makes us what we are. And that's just another example of what makes Elmhurst what it is. I thank you for your continued support. Give yourselves a nice round of applause. Hey, you're giving yourself a round of applause. Can't you do better than that? Come on. There you go. If you don't scream and yell, you're not going over to the dance party when I adjourn this. I now call this meeting adjourned. Thank you and good evening.
Visit elmhurst.org to explore the new City of Elmhurst website. Find out the latest Elmhurst news, pay utility bills and parking tickets, report concerns, and much more. Elmhurst.org is an ideal way to discover what Elmhurst offers your business, your family, your life.
Hi, I'm John Quigley, President and CEO of the Elmhurst Chamber of Commerce and Industry. In these challenging economic times, it's imperative that our residents and businesses band together to not only shop Elmhurst, but buy Elmhurst whenever possible. We have great stores in our city center, Spring Road, Butterfield Road, York and Villette Streets, St. Charles and Route 83, North Avenue and Lake Street, along North York and even Grand Avenue. I ask for your help. Let's keep our tax dollars in Elmhurst.